how to start. We are on page 840, Tuesday, September 1st. It must be 1885. Sri Ramakrishna was about to take his bath. A devotee was rubbing his body with oil on the veranda south of his room, and came there after finishing his bath in the Ganges and saluted the master. After bathing, Sri Ramakrishna wrapped himself in a towel and with folded hands saluted the deities in the temples from afar. He could not go to the temples because of his illness. It was the sacred Janmashtami day, the birthday of Krishna. Ram and other devotees had brought new clothes for Sri Ramakrishna. He put them on and he looked charming. Again, he saluted the deities. Gopal Ma brought her Gopala. That's the baby Gopala. That's the baby Krishna. And Gopal Ma regarded Sri Ramakrishna as Gopala himself, and she addressed Sri Ramakrishna by the name. She just called him Gopala. Gopal Ma brought her Gopala, that's her little deity, some food that she had prepared at her home in Kamarhati. She said to the master sorrowfully, "But you won't eat any of it, master. You see, I am ill." Gopal Ma, "That is my bad luck. Please take a little in your hand." "Master, please give me your blessing." A devotee brought some sugar candy. Gopal Ma said, "Let me take it to the Holy Mother in the Nahabat." Master said, "No, keep it here. I give sweets to the devotees. Who wants to send a messenger 100 times to the Nahabat for sugar?" Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Okay, glad you're not in the room, everybody. Excuse me. "No, keep it here. Give sweets to the devotees. Who wants to send the messenger 100 times to the Nahabat for sugar candy? Let it be kept here." It was 11 o'clock in the morning. The devotees were gradually arriving from Calcutta. Balaram, Narendra, the younger Naren, Navagopal, and a Vaishnava from Katoa arrived. Rakhal and Latu were staying there with Sri Ramakrishna. A Punjabi sadhu had been staying in the Panchavati for some days. The younger Naren had a tumor on his forehead. Sri Ramakrishna was strolling in the Panchavati with the devotees. He said to the younger Naren, "Why don't you have that tumor operated on? It is not in the throat, but only on the forehead. That is a simple thing. People have their orchitis operated on." That means the sexual organs. I had to look it up in the dictionary. Who knows these things? The Punjabi sadhu was going along the footpath in the garden. The master said, "I don't attract him. He has the attitude of a jnani. I find him to be as dry as wood." Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees returned to the master's room. The conversation turned to Shamapada Bhattacharya. Balaram. Shamapada said when he, the master, placed his foot on Narendra's chest, Narendra went into bhava, but I didn't have that experience. Master. Shall I tell you the truth about it? It is very difficult to gather a dispersed mind when it is attached to lust and greed. The pundit told me that he was called upon to act as an arbiter to settle people's quarrels. Besides, he has to worry about his children. But the minds of Narendra and the other youngsters are not scattered like that. They are not yet touched by lust and greed. But Shamapada is a grand person. The Vaishnava from Katoa began to ask Sri Ramakrishna questions. He was squint-eyed. Vaishnava, "Sir, is a man born again?" Master, it is said in the Gita that a man is reborn with those tendencies that are in his mind at the time of his death. King Bharata thought of his deer at the time of death and was reborn as a deer. It's so interesting in this that Sri Ramakrishna doesn't say yes or no. He had such tremendous humility that he quotes the Gita. It's like, here are the teachings. Vaishnava, I could believe in rebirth if only an eyewitness told me about it. Master, I don't know about that, my dear sir. I cannot cure my own illness. You ask me to tell you what happens after death. I can see the great humility of the man. What are you talking about? What you are talking about only shows your petty mind. Try to cultivate love of God. You were born as a human being, only to attain divine love. You have come to the orchard to eat mangoes. What need is there of knowing how many thousands of branches and millions of leaves there are in the orchard? To bother about what happens after death? How silly. Girish Ghosh arrived in a carriage with one or two friends. He was drunk. He was weeping as he entered the room. He wept as he placed his head on Sri Ramakrishna's feet. Sri Ramakrishna affectionately patted him on the back. He said to the devotee, "Prepare a smoke for him." Girish raised his head and said with folded hands, "You alone are the perfect Brahman. If that is not so, then everything is false. It is such a pity that I could not be of any service to you." He uttered these words with a tenderness that made several devotees weep. Girish continued, "O Lord, please grant me the boon that I may serve you for a year. Who cares for salvation? One finds it everywhere. I spit on it. Please tell me you accept my service for 1 year." Tell he's drunk. Master, people around here are not good. Some may criticize you. Girish, I don't care. Please tell Master. All right. You may serve me when I go to your house. Girish. No, it is not that. I want to serve you here. Girish was insistent. The master said, well, that depends on God's will. Referring to the master's throat trouble, Girish said, please say, let it be cured. All right, I shall thrash it out. Kali, Kali, master, you will hurt me. Girish, oh, throat be cured. He blows at the throat like an exorciser. That's like that. He blows at the throat. Are you not all right? If you aren't cured by this time, you will certainly be if I have any devotion to your feet. Say you are cured. Master, sharply, leave me alone. I can't say those things. I can't ask the Divine Mother to cure my illness. All right. I shall be cured if it is the will of God. Girish, you are trying to fool me. All depends on your will. Master, shame. Never say that again. I look on myself as a devotee of Krishna, not as Krishna himself. You may think as you like. You may look on your guru as God. Nevertheless, it is wrong to talk as you are talking. You must not talk like that way again. Girish, please say you will be cured. Master, very well if that pleases you. Girish was still under the influence of drink. Now and then he said to Sri Ramakrishna, well, sir, how is it that you were not born this time with your celestial beauty? It's pretty funny, actually. A few minutes later, he said, I see. This time it will be the salvation of Bengal. A devotee said to himself, obviously M, why Bengal alone? It will be the salvation of the whole world. Girish said, addressing the devotees, does any of you understand why he is here? It is for the liberation of men. Their suffering has moved him to assume a human body. The coachman was calling Girish. He got up and was going toward the man. The master said to him, watch him. Where's he going? I hope he won't beat the coachman. M accompanied Girish. Presently, Girish returned. He prayed to Sri Ramakrishna and said, oh God, give me purity that I may not even have a trace of sinful thought. Master, you are already pure. You have such faith and devotion. You are in a state of joy, aren't you? Girish, no, sir, I feel bad. I have worries. That is why I have drunk so much liquor. A few minutes afterwards, Girish said, Lord, I'm amazed to find that I, even I, who have been given the privilege of serving the perfect Brahman, what austerities have I practiced to deserve this privilege? Sri Ramakrishna took his midday meal. On account of his illness, he ate very little. The master's natural tendency of mind was to soar into the plane of God consciousness. He would force his mind to be conscious of the body, but like a child, he was incapable of looking after his body. Like a child, he said to the devotees, I've eaten a little. I shall rest now. You may go out for a little while. Sri Ramakrishna rested a few minutes. The devotees returned to the room. Girish, the Guru and the Ishta. I like very much the form of the Guru. I'm not afraid of him. Why should it be so? I'm afraid of ecstasy. At the sight of ecstasy, I run away. Master, he who is the Ishta appears in the form of the Guru. The aspirant practices meditation on a corpse. It says here that's one of the forms of meditation prescribed in the Tantras. When he obtains the vision of his chosen ideal, it is really the Guru who appears to him and says, this is that. That is to say, he points out to his disciple, his Ishta. Uttering these words, the Guru disappears into the form of the Ishta. The disciple no longer sees the Guru. In the state of perfect jnana, who is the Guru and who is the Shishya, that's disciple? This creates a very difficult situation. There, the teacher and the disciple do not see each other. A devotee, Guru's head and disciple's feet. Girish, joyfully, yes, it is true. Navagopal, but listen to the meaning. The devotee's head belongs to the Guru, and the Guru's feet belong to the disciple. Do you understand? Girish, no, that is not the meaning. Haven't you seen the child climbing on the head of the father? That is why the disciple's feet are mentioned. Navagopal, but then the disciple must feel like a young baby. Master, there are two classes of devotees. One class has the nature of the kitten. The kitten depends completely on its mother. It accepts whatever the mother does for it. The kitten only cries, mew, mew. It doesn't know what to do or where to go. Sometimes the mother puts the kitten near the hearth, sometimes on the bed. Devotees of this class give God the power of attorney and thus become free from all worry. The sheikh said to me that God was kind. I said to them, how is that? He's our father and our mother. Shouldn't parents bring up their children after begetting them? Do you mean to say that the neighbors will look after them? Devotees of this class have an unwavering conviction that God is our mother and our father. There is another class of devotees. They have the nature of the young monkey. The young monkey clings to its mother with might and main. The devotees who behave like the young monkey have the slight idea of being the doer. They feel, we must go to the sacred places. We must practice japa and austerity. We must perform worship with 16 articles as prescribed by the Shastras. Only then shall we be able to realize God. Such is their attitude. The aspirants of both classes are devotees of God. The farther you advance, the more you will realize that God alone has become everything. He alone does everything. He alone is the Guru, and he alone is the Ishta. He alone gives us knowledge and devotion. The farther you advance, the more you will see that there are other things even beyond the sandalwood forest, mines of silver and gold and precious gems. Therefore, go forward. But how can I ask people to go forward? If worldly people go too far, then the bottom will drop out of their world. One day, Keshav was conducting a religious service. He said, "Oh God, may we all sink and disappear in the river of bhakti." When the worship was over, I said to him, "Look here, how can you disappear altogether in the river of bhakti? If you do so, what will happen to those seated behind the screen? That is, the ladies, the wives behind the screen. But do one thing, sink now and then and come back again to dry land." All laugh. The Vaishnava from Katoa was arguing. Master, to the Vaishnava, "Stop that sizzling noise. When butter containing water is heated over a flame, it makes that sound. But if a person but once tastes the joy of God, their desire to argue takes wing. The bee, realizing the joy of sipping honey, doesn't buzz about anymore. What will you achieve by quoting from books? The pundits recite verses and do nothing else. What will you gain by merely repeating siddhi? You will not be intoxicated, even by gargling with a solution of siddhi. It must go into your stomach. Not until then will you be intoxicated. One cannot comprehend what I am saying unless one prays to God in solitude, all by oneself, with a longing heart. Dr. Rakhal arrived to examine Sri Ramakrishna. The master said to him eagerly, "Come in and sit down." The conversation with the Vaishnava continued. Master, man should possess dignity and alertness. Only he whose spiritual consciousness is awakened possesses this dignity and alertness and can be called a man. Futile is the human birth without the awakening of spiritual consciousness. There are many men at Kamarpur with big bellies and imposing mustaches. Yet the villagers go with palanquins and bring righteous and truthful persons from 20 miles away to arbitrate their quarrels. They do not bring mere pundits. Truthfulness is the tapasya of the Kali Yuga. Truthfulness, submission to God, and looking on the wives of other men as one's mother, these are the means to realize God. That is a quotation, and I believe it's from Tulsidas. Like a child, Sri Ramakrishna said to the physician, "Sir, please cure my throat." Doctor, do you ask me to cure you? Master, the physician is Narayana himself. I honor everybody. You may say that if I look on all as Narayana, then I should keep quiet. But I also accept the words of the Mahut Narayana. The pure mind and the pure Atman are one and the same thing. Whatever comes up in the pure mind is the voice of God. God alone is the Mahut Narayana. Why should I not listen to God? He alone is the master. As long as he keeps I consciousness in me, I shall obey his orders. The doctor was going to examine Sri Ramakrishna's throat. The master said, Dr. Mahendra Sarkar pressed my tongue in a way they press a cow's. Like a child, Sri Ramakrishna said to his physician, pulling at his shirt sleeves again and again, "Sir, my dear sir, please cure my throat." Looking at the laryngoscope, he said with a smile, "I know it. You will see the reflection in it." Narendra sang, but on account of the master's illness, there was not much music. Then we go to another day. Before we go on to that day, are there any other questions, issues? No? Go forward into the forest, beyond the sandalwood? Okay, we'll go beyond the sandalwood. So we're moving now to September 2nd, 1885. After finishing his midday meal, Sri Ramakrishna sat on the small couch and talked to Dr. Bhagavan Rudra and M. Rakhal, Latu, and other devotees were in the room. The physician heard all about the master's illness. Sri Ramakrishna came down to the floor and sat near the doctor. "Master, you see, medicine does not agree with me. My system is different." "Well, what do you think of this? When I touch a coin, my hand gets twisted, my breathing stops. Further, if I tie a knot in the corner of my cloth, I cannot breathe." And it's a very common thing in India. If you want to keep something or walk around with something, you tie it up in the very edge of your cloth. They didn't have pockets. "My breathing stops until the knot is untied." The master asked a devotee to bring a rupee. When Sri Ramakrishna held it to his hand, the hand began to writhe in pain. The master's breathing also stopped. After the coin had been taken away, he breathed deeply 3 times and his hand relaxed. The doctor became speechless with wonder to see this strange phenomenon. The doctor said to M, "Action on the nerves." Master to the doctor, "I get into another state of mind. It is impossible for me to lay up anything. One day I visited Shambhu Malik's garden house. At that time I'd been suffering badly from stomach trouble. Shambhu said to me, 'Take a grain of opium now and then. It will help you.' He tied a little opium in the corner of my cloth. As I was returning to the Kali temple, I began to wander about near the gate as if unable to find the way. Then I threw the opium away and once again regained my normal state. I returned to the temple garden. One day at Kamarpakor, I picked some mangoes. I was carrying them home, but I could not walk. I had to stay standing in one place. Then I left the mangoes in a hollow. Only after that could I return home. Well, how do you explain that?" Doctor, there is a force behind it. Will force. M. He, meaning the master, says it is God force. You say that it is will force. Master. To the doctor. Again, I get into such state of mind that if someone says that I'm better, I at once feel much better. The other day, the Brahmani said, "You are 50% better." At once I began to dance. Sri Ramakrishna was much pleased with the physician. He said to him, "You have a very fine nature. There are 2 characteristics of knowledge, a peaceful nature and the absence of pride." M. The doctor has lost his wife. Master to the doctor. I say that God can be realized if one feels drawn to him by the intensity of these 3 attractions, the child's attraction for the mother, the husband's attraction for the chaste wife, and the attraction of the worldly possessions for the worldly man. Please cure me of my illness. The doctor was going to examine the master's throat. Ramakrishna was seated in the chair in the semicircular porch. Referring to Dr. Sarkar, the master said, "He's a villain. He pressed my tongue as if I were a cow." Doctor: "He didn't hurt you purposely." Master: "No, but he pressed the tongue to make a thorough examination." Any questions on this day? Anything? Okay. Then we're going to go through September 20th and September 24th because they're both very short sections. Sunday, September 20th, 1885. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room surrounded by devotees. Navagopal, Harlal, Rakhal, Latu, and others were present. A Goswami, who was a musician, was also there. A Goswami is a Vaishnava of a Brahmin caste. Swami Swahananda came from that lineage. M arrived with Dr. Rakhal of Bao Bazar. The physician began to examine the master. He was a stout person and had rather thick fingers. Master, smiling to the physician: "Your fingers are like a wrestler's." Mahendra Sarkar also examined me. He pressed my tongue so hard that it hurt me. He pressed my tongue the way they press a cow's. Doctor: "I shall not hurt you, sir." The physician made out a prescription. Sri Ramakrishna was talking. Master, to the devotees: "Well, people ask why, if I'm such a holy man, I should be ill." Tarak: "Bhagavan Das Babaji too was ill and bedridden a long time." Master: "But look at Dr. Madhu. At the age of 60, he carries food to the house of his mistress, and he has no illness." That's quite funny. That's really funny. Goswami: "Sir, your illness is for the sake of others. You take upon yourself the sins of those who come to you. You fall ill because you accept their sin," which is quite, Sri Ramakrishna himself later said that. A devotee: "You will soon be cured if only you say to the Divine Mother, 'Mother, please make me well.'" Master: "I cannot ask God to cure my disease." The attitude of the servant-master relationship is nowadays less strong in me. Once in a while I say, "Oh, Mother, please mend this sheath of the sword a little," but such prayers are becoming less frequent. Nowadays I do not find my eye. I see that it is God alone who resides in this sheath. The Goswami had been invited to sing kirtan. A devotee asked, "Will there be any kirtan?" Sri Ramakrishna was ill, and all were afraid that the kirtan might throw his mind into ecstasy and thus aggravate the illness. Sri Ramakrishna said, "Let there be a little singing. All are afraid of my going into ecstasy. Spiritual emotion hurts the throat." The Goswami began the kirtan. Sri Ramakrishna could not control himself. He stood up and began to dance with the devotees. The physician watched the whole scene. A hired carriage was waiting for Dr. Rakhal. He and M were ready to leave for Calcutta. They saluted the master. Sri Ramakrishna said to M affectionately, "Have you had your meal?" Thursday, September 24th, 1885. It was the night of the full moon. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the small couch. He was very ill. M and some of the other devotees were sitting on the floor. Master to M: "Every now and then I think that the body is a mere pillowcase. The only real substance is the indivisible Satchidananda. When I go into divine ecstasy, the illness of the throat remains away from me. I'm now somewhat in that mood, and so I feel like laughing." Some ladies of Dwija's family arrived. They saluted the master and sat on one side. Pointing to one of the ladies, Sri Ramakrishna asked, "Who is this lady? Is it she who brought up Dwija? Why has Dwija brought an aktara?" M: "It has 2 strings, sir. An aktara is an instrument used by the bowels. It's just a 1-string instrument, and you kind of play around with it and goes depending on how you move that knob up and down. It has 2 strings, sir." Master: "Dwija's father is opposed to his views. Won't other people criticize him? It is wise for him to pray to God in secret." A picture of Gauranga and Nitai hung on the wall of the master's room. It was a picture of the 2 brothers singing devotional songs with their companions at Navadvip. Ramlal to the master: "Then may I give him," meaning M, "the picture?" Master: "Yes." Ramakrishna was then under Dr. Pratap's treatment. He awoke at midnight and felt extremely restless. Harish, his attendant, was in the room. Rakhal was also there. Ramlal was asleep on the veranda. The master remarked later on, I was feeling extremely restless. I felt like embracing Harish. They rubbed a little medicinal oil on my head. Then I began to dance. And that is the end of that day. You know, imagine he is less than a year away from his death from cancer. He's quite ill. And he's asking M about whether he took his food. He's talking about God incessantly. And when he talks to the doctor, it's like, please cure my illness. But most of the time he's talking about it's just a pillowcase. To be that detached from the body and still that much completely immersed in God consciousness is absolutely, it's so inspiring. So any questions or points to bring up to everybody? Anybody?
I just found it very endearing how childlike he was, repeating 3 different times about how the doctor pressed his tongue like a cow.
It was charming, isn't it? It's just charming. He pressed it like a cow. It's so totally endearing. It's true. It's true. All right. Well, let's see. We can conclude with the chant. See, tomorrow there will be a lecture on presence from Buddha, and tomorrow at 11 o'clock. The following Wednesday, there will be a reading from the Eternal Companion at 4:30, and Saturday, again, a reading from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna at 5 p.m. And then starting in June, everything will be in person, but it'll still be available on YouTube and Zoom as well. So everyone gets to attend. But the Eternal Companion will be changed in June from 4:30 to 5 p.m. All right, so let us. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Okay, glad to see you all. Really glad to see you all. And have a good weekend and the rest of the week. And see you later. Thanks for joining us. Bye. Durga, do you want me to put this chair in or leave it here?
I think it's kind of
Get in the way?